Welcome back. A lot of people in Western New York are getting hit in the wallet when it comes to buying food. The U.S. government's latest reading on inflation recently showed that food prices rose at a faster pace in January over December. To put that in perspective, supermarket prices are now 25% higher than they were in January of 2020. Joining us live via Zoom, that is Jack Ampuja, the former president and CEO of Supply Chain Optimizers and executive director of the Niagara University Center for Supply Chain Excellence. And we know that you spent many years at Rich Products as well. Jack, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Claudine.
Help us understand when it comes to these rising prices at a faster rate overall than inflation.
There are a whole bunch of factors, things like weather, many of these things like grains, oil seeds, meats. These are worldwide commodities. So if there's a shortage somewhere else in the world, the pricing tends to reflect, and companies that need this stuff will be looking wherever they can find it. So we're not isolated here in the United States. That one of the big factors is the war in Ukraine. Ukraine is a big supplier of oil seeds and grains, and there's not a whole lot coming out of there. So that begins to affect the pricing and the supply here in North America too.
It may not be scientific, but we can all relate to the price of eggs. Not too long ago, you could get a dozen for less than $2, but now a dozen of eggs can cost $4 or more. What's causing the swing in the egg prices?
Yeah, I'll mention that mayonnaise obviously is made from oil and eggs, and a jar of mayonnaise, I shopped today, a jar of mayonnaise is now about $8 a jar, just an eye-popping price. But the big factor that a lot of people became aware of for the first time in 2022 is avian flu. It's highly contagious, and the domestic birds are very susceptible to this. For some strange reason, the wild birds are carriers of this disease, but they don't seem to be affected by it. So in round numbers, in the last, call it a year and a half, we have had to destroy about 75 million chickens here in the United States because of avian flu. The regulation is that if a single bird in a flock is infected, the entire flock has to be destroyed. The barn has to be sanitized, fumigated, and then you have to wait some period of time for clarity to make sure that the disease has subsided before you can go back into it. So we had that big factor in 2022 and early 23. Well, late last year, the same thing flared up again. We've now destroyed 15 million birds so far in 2024. So obviously, it begins to affect both meat supply and egg supply.
President Biden talked about shrinkflation, when we pay the same price for a food item, but the manufacturer actually decreases the amount of the item that we're buying. What would it take for things to go back to how it had been?
What you'll hear from the manufacturers is input costs, that what are they paying for sugar, for oils, for grains. What about fuel, for example, or electricity? So they're very aware of the inputs. And I would also tell everyone to look at the profitability that's being reported by the big food companies like Kraft Heinz, ConAgra, Unilever, Nestle. They're reporting very strong profits. So there has been some inflation. But those companies are also very much aware of how the consumer is behaving. The consumer has choices, so the manufacturer is attempting to try to keep that pricing under control. For years, chocolate bars have expanded and contracted with the marketplace, and that is one way that manufacturers try to keep the pricing within line and to kind of hide that price impact.
And finally, the price of eating out at a restaurant is going up faster than the inflation at the grocery store. Briefly, what kind of impact are we seeing from that?
It is higher cost because you've got the food inputs, and then it's also the labor. My wife and I were out at a restaurant a couple of nights ago, and we had to wait in line, although there were open tables. I think they can't find help. And then all of us are reading about so many people in the restaurant field looking for higher pay, better benefits. That gets reflected in the bill that you're getting at the end of the night, that we want those people to be paid adequately, but there's kind of a catch-up situation going on right now. I will say that chicken, for example, eggs, dairy, they all look like they're at peak right now, and that we should not see huge upticks in price. If the flu strikes again, all bets are off, but right now it looks like we're kind of at the peak, and things should start to look better in about 30 to 60 days.
Jack Ampuja, thank you so much for joining us on the 5:30 today. Your insight, we welcome. Thank
Pleasure,
you.
Claudine.
Thank you.
Thank you.